I'm going to teach you how you could start up your own tutoring business. But before I tell you my secrets, be sure to like and subscribe. It would really help me out as a channel. I'd really appreciate it. My first piece of advice when it comes to starting up your own tutoring business is that you need to have subjects to teach. Get very good at the subjects that you want to teach. For example, in my case, I was able to get very good at the MCAT in order to tutor the MCAT. I had to actually take the test and get a 94th percentile in order to qualify to tutor it. When it comes to figuring out which subjects to teach, I would highly suggest that you teach subjects that not many people know. For example, the MCAT only limits a certain amount of people to getting a top score, and no more can get a top score after that. Hence, being a top scorer in the MCAT is an extremely valuable trait that many people will seek after. So, look to teach in subjects that are very difficult to master and not many people can learn so easily, because those are the subjects that tend to be rewarded the most. Standardized tests are a very good example of this. But you could also tutor tough subjects like calculus, chemistry, physics, any other sciences that people find very difficult. And even with common subjects, you can find ways to bring value as a tutor. For example, on my platform that I work on, I noticed that golf was a very common subject people tutored. However, I noted that the ones who tended to stand out more had the credentials to prove so. For example, the top tutors in golf, they were either involved in the PGA to some extent, or if they weren't able to get into that level, they were state champions in high school, and they were able to have the credentials to prove so. Before you even think of starting to tutor, be sure to have a subject or a skill that you could show other people how to do, and also get other people to believe that you're an expert in the subject and why they should pick you in order to tutor them. It's really more about a sales pitch of you to them, as why they should pick you as your tutor. My second piece of advice when it comes to starting your tutoring business is to get good at tutoring itself. First, I advised you about mastering a subject. Now you need to master teaching it. And I would highly suggest that you start off by working for someone else in order to understand how tutoring really works. In my case, I worked at my school's tutoring center, where I got paid as a tutor but offered tutoring to students for free. Through this, I was able to understand how to best teach students, because at the time I had no experience teaching people at all. And this was really massively helpful because at the time I had got some really helpful feedback of how I could improve my tutoring. I think this is something really valuable that you should do if you're considering starting up a tutoring business, because a lot of people want to look for tutors who already have experience in the field. And I think that gaining that kind of experience while tutoring for your school, for example, is extremely valuable. My third piece of advice is to build up a clientele. And this is often the most difficult part of becoming a freelance tutor or owning your own tutoring business. Because if you don't have clients coming to you, it's going to be very hard to sustain a career as a tutor. There are many different ways in which you could go about building a clientele. One of the biggest ways you could do it is to promote to friends and family. Another way you could do this is by doing social media campaigns. You can message people on Instagram, go into Facebook groups that have people who are looking for tutors, any other pages, so on and so forth. And another way in which you could do it is to start creating content like I'm doing on YouTube in order to build a following. And by building a following, you'll have some portion of your followers who may be interested in using your services that way. When it comes to building a clientele, marketing is really everything, which is why it's really important, because you could be the best tutor there ever is, but if other people don't know about it, then that's pretty disastrous for your tutoring business. When it comes to building up a clientele, even though there are ways in which you could build up a clientele yourself, there will be websites that will often help you out obtaining clients. For example, the site I work for called Wisant obtains clients for me so that I don't have to do much of the heavy lifting. And it's really helpful because they act as a middle person who joins me as a tutor and then the student together so that we can meet up. And these sites will often have algorithms based on the reviews students will leave you. So when students leave you 5-star reviews, the website will recommend you to other students and you will pop up on the search bar for being the top tutor for that subject up sooner, which is really crucial to your tutoring business. So when it comes to using third-party websites for your tutoring business, be sure to rack up 5-star reviews and hours you spent tutoring. because the site's algorithm will take that into account when it comes to promoting your business. Another area that can really help your tutoring business is pricing. Now, I know pricing is something a bit tricky to talk about because I believe that you should charge what your services are worth, but on the other hand, you should also be accommodating to what the student can afford. I would suggest coming up with creative ways to use pricing to keep your students engaged in your tutoring. If you have a student who can't afford your rates, you could potentially offer to tutor that student in a group of other students where they each pay a fraction of the rate to make up your actual hourly rate. I would also suggest encouraging clientele loyalty by offering discounts to clients who will stick with you over long periods of time. I do this as a way to say thank you to my clients for staying with me for so long. As a final piece of advice when it comes to tutoring is to always ask for feedback. Your business growing is reliant on how well you perform as a tutor, as well as how well you know the subjects. Don't be afraid to ask students to leave their honest opinions, and be prepared to hear uncomfortable advice of how you perform as a tutor. Even though it may not be the advice you want to hear, it's valuable feedback. So that way you could open your eyes to know what you have to improve on and become a better tutor in the future, because ultimately that will help you out in your business. And speaking of feedback, be sure to comment down below on what you think about this video, if you liked the video or didn't like it. Either or, I'm looking forward to hear from both sides. And be sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so you can know when the next upload comes. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next one.